and welcome to another tutorial video, writing exercise 10, improving character action beats. I actually didn't know what I was going to do a tutorial about today, but I just decided to redo my character action beats video, which I had done before, but I'm just going to do it again as I have added a little something extra in there this time in the tutorial. But what are character action beats? Action beats are sentences of character facial expressions, gestures, movements, thoughts, or actions before, between, or after dialogue that identify the speaker without using dialogue tags. An example, or two examples, is he smiled, good morning, how are you, ma'am? Or she shrugged, I don't know the answer to your question. Some key points when it comes to improving character action beats is firstly, using character action beats helps to fix talking heads. If you don't know what talking heads is, it is a writing reference when it comes to a dialogue where readers aren't able to properly identify who is saying what in a particular scene. That's pretty much the meaning of talking heads, because when readers aren't able to identify, it can give that type of impression that the characters are just floating in space somewhere when you don't really fill in the details of like who's saying what, who the characters are, or where they're located. Another key point is to give your characters unique traits, quirks, and mannerisms. For example, a character who bites their lip whenever he or she lies, or my character Robin Savage, who has a southern Georgian accent and a dimple in her right cheek, but not her left one. Another key point is to try to avoid overusing common action beats such as smiled, nodded, and shrugged, which can be quite common among many writers. I know I've had this issue myself, but it really can be helpful to bring in a mix of character action beats so you don't reuse the same ones over and over. And finally, the last key point is to consider the difference between positive or neutral emotions, happiness, love, desire, amusement, and surprise, etc., and negative emotions, sadness, anger, disgust, fear, anxiety, exhaustion, embarrassment, etc., and their appropriate physical reactions. So this is pretty much saying when a character is expressing a certain emotion, to make sure that it is that whatever action or physical reaction that they're having, that it's appropriate to that particular emotion, pretty much. Below here I have some examples of facial expressions. One thing that really helped me was one of my writing references, which is a writer's list by Bryn Donovan. I'll have it linked below if you're interested in checking it out. But she talks about different types of ways to express characters' actions, and the first I think was this one here, was facial expressions, positive or neutral emotions. And this is just a list of some examples that one could use for positive or neutral emotions. She raised a brow, his eyes widened, he looked askance at her. She slid him a guarded look, his pupils were huge, he licked his lips, a smile danced on his lips, she gawked, his lashes fluttered, she surveyed. If you don't know the meaning of this one. It just means like a person looking around in a room, or scanning their eyes across the room or something. And her whole face lit up and his jaw dropped. So all of these are just some examples of positive or neutral emotions. Negative emotions. His brows knitted. She gave him a frosty look or a cold look. His face went blank. Tears shimmered in her eyes. Her eyes were glossy. His nose wrinkled. A vein popped out his neck. She winced. He gritted his teeth. She blushed. He frowned. She also made references to gestures or body language. Some examples of those are she snapped her fingers, he clenched his fist, she raised her shoulder in a half shrug, he crossed his legs, he stroked his beard, her heart throbbed, she picked at her nails, he visited with his eyelashes, she sighed, he shrugged, his shoulders slumped. All of these are just some examples of gestures or body language. And the last key point here is to allow your characters' personalities show through their interactions. For example, a shy character will be less talkative than an outgoing or gregarious character, so it would be a good idea to give them few lines of dialogue in a scene. Another example is a comical character who jokes and says the wrong things at the wrong times during serious situations. For example, maybe the character is joking during a robbery or something. But that is all of the different key points that are important when it comes to improving character action beats. Below here, I just have a sample of a scene of some of my characters from one of my stories without character action beats. And I'm going to read this passage just to show how not having character action beats can actually affect and make a scene kind of confusing. Good grief, Phoebe. Why are you out of breath? Well, I did have to carry that old heavy vacuum upstairs and downstairs. Shoot. Man, my arms are so sore they feel like they're gonna fall off. Sounds like you'll need a new vacuum, Mom. Maybe so, but right now we need to clean out that attic. I ain't been up there in months. There's no telling what surprises we might find. Surprises? Does that mean snakes? I don't like snakes, Phoebe said. Don't worry, Phoebe. I'm sure there's none of those up there. But there could be termites. Oh no. That might be worse than the snakes. Yeah, Robin said. This morning I noticed some tiny marks on the kitchen cabinets, like mice had been all on them. Mice, Phoebe said, even more terrified. Don't freak out, Phoebe. Jeez. Last thing we need is an ambulance coming here because you passed out. Good one, Mom. Her textbook was open on the living room table, and beside her was a small wastebasket filled with crumpled up balls of paper. So that's the end of the first sample passage. As you can see, this scene is a bit confusing. We are able to identify two of the characters, at least Robin and Phoebe, but we cannot properly identify all of the lines of who's saying what. So it's really important to include those character action beats so that we can properly identify all of the lines of dialogue. Below here, I actually added in and have in the character action beats. And I'm going to read it again just to show how action beats can really help to improve a scene. Claire Marie placed her hands on her lower back. She frowned. Good grief, Phoebe. Why are you out of breath? Phoebe bugged her eyes with attitude. Well, I did have to carry that old heavy vacuum upstairs and downstairs. Shoot. She massaged her bronze, sleek arms. Man, my arms are so sore they feel like they're gonna fall off. Claire Marie giggled at her little sister's witty joke. Sounds like you'll need a new vacuum, Mom. Robin chuckled. Maybe so, but right now we need to clean out that attic. I ain't been up there in months. There's no telling what surprises we might find. Surprises? Does that mean snakes? I don't like snakes, Phoebe said. Don't worry, Phoebe. I'm sure there's none of those up there, but there could be termites. Robin entered into the house. Oh no, that might be worse than the snakes. Marie followed her mother into the living room and closed the door. Yeah, Robin said. This morning I noticed some tiny marks on the kitchen cabinets, like mice had been gnawing on them. Mice, Phoebe said, even more terrified. Marie laughed at her little sister. Don't freak out, Phoebe. Jeez. Last thing we need is an ambulance coming here because you passed out. Ava giggled. Good one, Mom. She was sitting on her legs on the floor, working on her English homework. Her textbook was opened on the living room table, and beside her was a small wastebasket filled with crumpled up balls of paper. So as you can see in the second example or sample here with character action beats, the scene is a lot better and more fuller compared to up here when it was just the dialogue. So that's pretty much it for this tutorial, and I hope it was helpful. Again, I'll have the book listed below for the Writer's Masters list by Bryn Donovan, and thank you for watching.